Hello, welcome to Cosplay Confessional. We're here to explore the who's, how's and why's of cosplayers and the hobby that they love. I'm your host, Kisasa Cosplay, a cosplayer with 6 years of experience.
And I'm Dave. I'm a cosplay enthusiast who's never done a cosplay, so 0 years for me. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Cosplay Confessional. We are here today with the fantastic Karoinna. Welcome.
Hi, hello.
I had to confess before we started that I have been pronouncing your name wrong this whole time in my head, and I'm really sorry about it. But it's a cool name, and it's one that sticks, because I remember it from seeing, I think the first thing I saw of yours was your Ash cosplay. And sorry, just jumping into it, because it came into my head, because I thought that was such a cool costume. And one of the first ones I recognized, I'm like, who is this person? And then I was lucky enough to meet you when you were at Wales Comic Con a few months ago. So we thought it'd be a great opportunity for you to come on and tell us about how you got into cosplay, what it kind of means to you as the hobby that it is, and yeah, some of those costumes which we'll ask about in some more detail. But yeah, how did you start? Where did this come from for you?
Well, it all started, it's really way back. So I was a crafty, artsy person since really nursery, I think. And it all started with drawing at first. So as a kid, I was fan of fantasy elves. Oh my God, I love elves, like all elven things. Yes, I am for it. So initially, I was just like a, World of Warcraft player, elves, all that stuff. And my brother, he is 5 years older than me. So he would, at the time, he would understand English far better than me. So he would teach me how to play games, how to understand this fantasy world. And at some point, he showed me Polish, like a gaming magazine. And he was like, look, there are people who are actually like blood elves, like wearing the costumes. Like, what? Wow, amazing. But I was like, I don't know, 6, 7 at the time. So I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. That's so cool. How do I get into that? And then it kind of disappeared. So I kept on drawing, creating art. But at some point, I was like, you know what? It's all fun to create art, but I want to live it, if that makes sense. Like, I want to somehow have a photo shoot, like fantasy photo shoot. My dad is a photographer, so I kind of could already start doing things like that.
Good connection.
But I thought, it was quite cool. But I was like, okay, but how, what to do? What's next? And I got bored of drawing, I must admit, because everyone was like, oh yeah, remember to practice this and that. So I wouldn't draw for fun anymore. I would draw to get better at it, which is also cool. But if we do it just that, it's boring. So I was like, okay, I still want to do that, but to keep myself creatively sane, let's try something else. And I went to a con in Poland, biggest gaming con, and 2013 October, I remember it was, and I saw Geralt, I think, from Witcher. I was like, oh my God, yes, yes, this is it. I was wearing silicone elven ears, and I had like a rogue World of Warcraft t-shirt with the symbol of the class, and I was like, oh my God, yes, this is amazing. Yes, let's do that. The problem was that year was the year of A-levels. So that was the worst year for me to start learning a new skill. Yeah. But I did it. So I bought EVA foam, and I decided, okay, I'm not that good at anything, really. I didn't make stuff. I would always draw and design it. So let's find something easy enough that my dad, for example, can help me, because he is good at sewing. And he has all those tools I can potentially use. And I chose Ashara from World of Warcraft. Mm-hmm. And it was a challenge still at the beginning. Of course it was. I didn't have a workshop. I didn't have the space. I had like a tiny corner of my desk where my books would be. And I would just cut EVA foam. And I would make a very rookie mistake of covering EVA foam with cardboard on top, because I know. But I did it. It was still okay. Like, I wouldn't do it now, but the first cost was fine.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know how it's done in UK, but in Poland, when you have A-levels, you graduate in April and you do your exams early May. Okay, so the end of April, the same weekend, basically, when I graduated, was like biggest fantasy con in Poland called Pyrkon. And I thought, this is where I want to wear whatever Ashara thing I made. I managed to only make like foam bits, like bracelets, like leg stuff, crown and necklace. So I wore just like a white dress and elf ears and a wig. And all was cool. But my parents were like, "Are you sure you should be doing it now?" I was like, "Probably not, but I'm stressed."
You will.
Yes. And I loved it. I met so many cosplayers back then. Made so many friends. Everyone was very happy to take photos and excited to do some silly poses, whatever, together, which is something I love. So it was great fun. So it started in 2014 as a hobby, but up to like 2020. In 2020, it became like a professional job. So in between, I wouldn't make as many costumes because I was in my undergrad studies. So again, I didn't have time really to make it. So I was improving my Ashara, making different versions, design my own version. Then I did Drow Ranger from Dota. And just kept reusing these, which was still cool. And I kept doing like more fantasy, easier photo shoots at home with my dad. So I still kept being creative. But I moved to UK in 2019. And in 2020, I was doing my master's here. And my now husband was like, "You know what? You're doing cosplay part-time already. Like you have certain jobs here and there. You're teaching part-time English, but you're studying full-time. Like you might as well just stop working with the English stuff. Keep your art, keep your cosplay stuff." I was like, "Oh, you sure? You never know, creative industry." But he was like, "Yeah, go for it." So I did. And here I am.
Amazing.
You often hear the story of people giving up their art for the kind of like practical, real job kind of thing. Whereas it actually went the other way around and we thought, nah, forget that job. I'm going to create stuff instead. That's pretty cool.
I think it's slightly easier because my husband comes from a family where there is an artist. His dad is an artist already. So he's kind of used to one doing some crazy weird and the other having a more normal job. But I don't think I would feel brave enough without his encouragement, really, because my family is more into like practical, secure jobs. Even if I loved art, studied art, they were always worried. And it's fair enough. Creative industry is not easy. But, you can still struggle with finding any job if no matter how good you are at it. So it doesn't really matter. You just need to be clever about it.
You mentioned the idea of having to practice art, making it not as enjoyable. How has that been now that cosplay is your profession? Like, do you still manage to keep that enjoyment in there? Or are there times when it is just like, this is work now? How do you balance that?
I must admit, during COVID times especially, I struggled with work-life balance because there's nothing else to do. It was nothing else to do really at the time. So I just kept on doing 12 hours. Nothing really, I didn't care. Now, I can still forget myself and do that. So what I've decided to do is block out evenings for like activities. So gaming with my brother, going out, do some sports. So I'm forced to just stop, which is good. It's better. But in terms of enjoyment, I think I am still loving it. I still love figuring things out, frying my brain, making sure things work, like both as a design, because some designs obviously not necessarily translate to real life, but also they still look as they should. So I really enjoy it. But I think the biggest stressful thing, apart from, finding clients and finances, is making sure you meet those deadlines because you're self-employed. There are cases you can't work for whatever reason. It's easier for me to take a break than for my husband and do some house-related things or healthcare, whatever. So sometimes I need to take days off, and I can easily catch up with that during the evening or in the weekend. But it's this weight of a deadlines on you that can take away from it. But what helps me is having multiple projects at the same time as well. So even though I know there are deadlines, I can feel the excitement of, okay, if I finish this piece this weekend, I can move on for next 2 or 3 days, take a break from that because I have schedule. I can move to something different completely, take a break mentally from that, and then come back again. So it's finding your own flow, I think.
So the nature of, obviously you say like now it's your job, like in like practical terms. So is it like you is it the prop side of things, like you like get commissions, or like how exactly does it work?
I am currently, for example, making a costume for an esports team in UK. I am making the mascot called the Knights, and that particular job is to make the costume and give it to them. But I also am sometimes hired with my current costumes to go to the events to promote them, or to make a costume from scratch, but also keep it for myself and go to events. It really depends on the contracts and on people who want to hire me. But I think the biggest fun is making props because they can be a bit weird. And figuring out how to transport them, it's always fun. And you don't need to worry about, matching measurements for other people. I think that's something that really stresses me out. Like, I can do it, but there's always a chance to make an error and have to repair it at some point. With a prop, it's a prop.
People get very attached to their cosplay. So what's it like, the idea of creating something for somebody else? Like, you've put the effort in, you've made the costume, you're happy with it, it's ready, and then you've got to hand it over without getting to wear it. What's that like? Is that hard?
So it's the same actually with art for me. So what I usually have, if it's in advance said you don't keep it, I don't mind as much, if that
Right.
makes sense. If I'm already aware it's not going to be with me. But usually what I try to talk to my clients, I ask their permission to at least take photos for my portfolio of me wearing it, if it fits me, of course, or on a mannequin or whatever. So at least it's there. I made it. I have a souvenir. I can use it in my portfolio, and it doesn't feel like I've lost it, if that makes sense. It's still there.
That seems like a good compromise.
Yeah.
But since you make the costumes for your job, and sometimes it will be you're employed to make them for you to wear to a certain event, how then does it work in terms of, like, there's just a costume that you want to do because you love and you want to wear that to a con? Do you find it hard to fit that in, as well as having to make them for work? And do you think that now you don't make so many things that you want to make?
Yeah, I get what you mean. I think I am quite okay for now. I usually do designs I like. I can suggest them, but sometimes my potential employees are like, oh, we actually want this because, I don't know, this character is the theme for this event. And I can then choose whether I want to do it or not, whether I feel comfortable making it or not. But usually, to me, I see doing something that I wouldn't go for as an extra creative challenge, because personally I will go for elves, obviously, and funnily enough I have barely any elves in my portfolio. But if I had a choice, yeah, it's an elf, immediate choice, but it's not always the case, obviously, as we can see with my stuff. But yeah, usually with events it's quite easy, because sometimes they just want me to appear on them, so they ask, oh, can you bring this, whatever you've already made, and it's easy job for me then, because it's already done. Maybe it needs repairs and I just wear it on the day. But if it's something specific for the event, something new, then there are going negotiations and then choosing design. It varies. Some clients can be laid back and they will show me the design and I can say, look, this is the design. If you can kind of stick to it, but I trust your creative input. I know there might be some changes to be done. Just go for it. Like, they don't even want me to ask their permission, but I still do, just to be sure, because I want them to enjoy the outcome as well. So it really depends. Some people are so into it that they want to know everything, how it's done, and I don't mind doing that either, because I love to nerd out about stuff like that. And some are just like excited to see progress and they don't ask any questions. Either to me is fine. So it really depends on dynamic. You get kind of the feel, initial few emails, for example, you kind of know what's going to happen.
So when you've been going to the events and you've been different characters, I mean, when we met each other, you were in your Commander Shepard, which is one of my personal favorites, because anybody who knows me will tell you how big a Mass Effect fan I am. That was one where I imagined there was a fair bit of attention. There's a lot of love for that character. Is that one where, what was that like being at the event? I mean, not just that character, but in general, like when you're there in a costume and people are coming up to you for the photos and wanting to be part of that. What's that experience? What's that like at the end of like putting all the effort in to bring that to life? Because that costume, am I right? It was like it was shaped and you had LEDs in it, and it was it was quite a build by the look of things, right?
Yes, I want to also give a shout out to actually my friend, because she made that one particular one. I just repaired it. So the story behind that one is FemShep was my dream cosplay to make, but I had other plans and I was blocked out, so I couldn't. And at some point I saw she was selling it, and I thought, I am all for recycling stuff and reusing things. If she doesn't need it and it's awesome, I'm all for it. She sent it to me. She said, there will be repairs to be done. I was like, don't worry, I'll do that. And I did it, and it's revived and it works. I'm so happy it fits, honestly, because that's the risk when you buy from someone, obviously. But I'm so happy it fits. But when it comes to all the work and excitement, yes, it's nice. It's nice to have your work appreciated. Definitely, it's nice to see people be excited about the same thing you are, because you can chat with them. You can be silly. You can say some jokes that people only from that community would use. And this is something I was trying to do with people at the event, recruiting them to fight Reapers, because obviously we always need to fight the Reapers. And I think what I've observed is both being excited and tired, because usually you prepare everything in excitement, and once you arrive, this adrenaline of preparation is kind of gone. Yeah. And once you arrive, you're like, okay, I've done the thing, it's awesome, now I need to get ready. Well, okay, fine, I will get ready. So usually my process is taking forever, because I am like waking up, hyping myself up. I'm still excited to do it, it's just I am exhausted because I've been working hard prior. And I arrive to the event, and then I see everyone in costumes, not even talking to me, just like entering. I'm like, yes, okay, I'm in. And immediately it's back. So I think this tiredness is something people also should factor in, and ideally not go crazy with deadlines to go to the event, because they might not enjoy it as much as they could potentially. And this is something I try to be mindful of, but actually with FemShep it was a bit last minute, because I had other commitments prior, so I knew that that's it, I need to make it. That's the thing. Like, I think I did my FemShep photo shoot just before N7 day, or even on the N7 day I finished editing the photos. So by that point I was like, ugh, I'm so proud, but I need a week. I can't anymore. But no, going to the event, showing it off was great. Yeah, I think the scariest thing for me actually for that weekend was I had like lung infection, whatever. I had to take antibiotics, right. And only on that weekend I start like the armor, it compresses your chest a little bit. Right. So when my friend was driving us, I was fine. But when he would make a turn on a roundabout, I'm like, oh God, no, I can't breathe. And he was like, why? I was like, because you're turning. What? Yes, don't turn as aggressively. Okay. So my biggest worry was that I would just start being like coughing and unwell and like dying on people, but it was fine. Actually, the meds worked on time. I was fine.
Yep. Shout out to all the doctors out there. Yeah, that's one thing I don't often consider. Like the kind of, you mentioned the adrenaline and the anticipation, the idea of putting that much effort into a costume, and then the kind of the debut. Like wearing it for the first time, especially like I mean, you both can speak to what that must feel like. Of putting all the work in, getting it all ready, and then finally going, okay, I'm going to wear this to a convention now. People are going to see it, and they're going to get photos, and they're going to question it, and what that must be like in terms of like the highs and presumably some kind of crash at the end of it, right? Yeah, it is. I had last year quite busy first half of the year. I was making 3 costumes for almost the same deadline, and in the end, like I made it, but I must admit this stress of having things so close after one another, I think I would have enjoyed the events far better if I didn't have that much pressure, because I still did the job, I still had lots of fun, but at night I could feel my body kind of not being able to calm down, both excitement and stress mixing together. First, I think I was in Berlin for up to 5 days, I don't remember exactly, but first 2 nights I wasn't well. Like I couldn't sleep, if that makes sense. I would wake up exhausted, and
I was so stressed I couldn't eat, and that's not healthy. Please, people, don't do that. That's not nice. Remember to eat and drink. But this is the risk. It's your job. Sometimes, unfortunately, you have the deadline and you need to meet it, and that's it. But now, what I'm trying to do after that half a year, I kind of learned my limits more, and I'm trying to plan it better. Of course, you can't plan every deadline possible because some people might want the same costume for like 2 costumes for the same event or week after another. But if you know well in advance, it's easier to plan. But sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes people just give you like 6 weeks and good luck. So what helps is having a machine work for you. That helps. Yep. That's my top employee.
Employer.
Yep.
Everyone.
Bow down to the machines. I guess, yeah, because Kisasa, you've spoken previously about con crunch and the idea of like having to like put the touches in to get a costume done in the run up to a big event that you've planned and whatever else. And like, so if that ever happened, Karoinna, where you've had a number of commissions or a number of requests to do something, and you've had to sort of push them back, like you got too many to deliver for one event, and so you've had to kind of, say sorry, but it's not really going to work because there's not enough time.
I'm usually honest up front. So if someone asks me, hey, can you do this? I'm saying, okay, I'm busy until that month. Are you happy with me to start after that month? And usually they are like, yeah, no problem. So that works. But with that Berlin event, for example, even if you plan everything out and you're sticking to your schedule, there will be things that you will not anticipate. Like my sewing machine broke, 14 hours before my flight, and my sewing bits were not finished. So it was, I think, 1 or 2 a.m. and I just was like, no, I can't deal with it. No, I'm out. Went to my husband and I said, yeah, I know you will make it. I know you will do this. No pressure, but I know you will do this. Deal with it because I can't be in the room now. I can't look at this, please. So he just started, Googling, finding videos, clicking, hitting it, everything. And I just kept on doing other stuff next to him. And at some point it was something so stupid, like I say like slapping one piece in, but that's what it was. I don't even know what it was exactly, but that's what it was. And it worked. And I was like, okay, great. I was asking people last minute to let me borrow the sewing machines, or my friend, my assistant, she has a sewing machine, but there wouldn't be enough time probably to finish it on time. So there were huge risks. But we did it. But yeah, my husband is very, he always brings this calmness back to me. So sometimes I'll just have a mental breakdown, come to him, start crying even because of stress. And he'll be like, okay, calm down, take a break, go do something else.
Yeah.
I will deal with it. Okay.
Yeah. Shout out to cosplay partners who are there to support and occasionally smack a machine.
Yes.
You're part of this
the
too.
Best. Yes. The anyone who can deal with our insanity, great job, honestly. I did pay him in a ice cream, so he was happy.
I'd work for ice cream. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned obviously starting with art and working into costumes and now where you are. And I've seen obviously a lot of the cosplays that you have are established characters and the detail is great. Are there many characters where they're ones that you've created, either things that you've come up with from a piece of art and thought, hang on, I can actually make this now? Or do you stick to characters that exist and know, or are there ones where you are a bit more sort of free form with making something new?
It's a mix. Obviously, it's easier to get a job with something that's already there because people want it to be replicated. But my father-in-law, he, for example, hired me to be like a video presenter for his poem. So he made Halloween poem show on YouTube, and he said that he wanted me to embody this kind of person who announces each show in between, makes jokes and stuff like that. So he said he wanted it to be like an evil character, evil looking character, but not necessarily. And I have creative freedom. And he named her Echo Shaylin. And I thought, okay, can work with that. Guess who I did? An elf. So it was like an evil queen-looking elf, and he gave me the script, and I just recorded myself and did that part of job for him. But when it comes to like original characters, I design them in my head. I don't really have the time to draw them. But when I work with my dad, usually we would do something fantasy. So I would create like a mood board, and I would be like, okay, I go for like dark characters and evil stuff. So it'd be like dark witch, evil witch, or whatever. And I would send him all that stuff I want from him, and he'd be like, okay, we can work with that. And we've done like a Slavic witch, which was my favorite photo shoot with him, because we worked with real fire. I had like candles, a candle pauldron kind of on my shoulders, and there were candles flaming up high. I had to tie up my hair because he was really worried I would go up in flames. But it was so much fun working with him on something like that. We had kind of like not underwater but in water photo shoot, which was actually in our bathroom in a bath, but it looked cool, kind of like Ophelia style, you know. And then something hilarious, we were doing evil queen photo shoots. I was just wearing like a foam crown. And my dad's wife, she had a cat at the time, and that cat, oh my god, she hated this crown. She was hissing at me. She loves me, but when she saw that crown, hissing, jumping, and everything, and we thought, okay, let's get her closer, like take off the crown, show it to her, and she was like confused, but fine. But when I put it on, no, there was a moment she calmed down. And she like came closer to me, and we thought, oh, it would look cool, like evil queen with her like evil looking cat. So I grabbed her, and she was fine until she looked at me and she hissed at me, jumped away. I'm like, okay, well, that's it. That's the photo shoot. But when it comes to own characters, I would like to make more. It's just I have such a long cosplay things for my own projects that I'm not sure when it will happen.
So do you have, I mean, I assume it would be an elf, but do you have a favorite cosplay that you've either done for yourself or that you've made as a commission that you're particularly proud of, or like a standout one for you?
My favorite cosplays would be Spectre from Dota that I made last year for Berlin. I usually like, and it's a joke among me and people in Dota family, that I always go to this event either deaf or blind, because I have a mask and I can't see anything. I need two assistants to like hold me and just tell me, okay, turn slightly left, go up, there will be stairs. Now just stand there, people are taking photos, and you know, people would come and talk to me, mostly to my assistants, to tell me how cool it is, which is cute, but they don't know they can talk to me. They just need to shout, but they will hear it. And it's funny thing that over the weekend, I would recognize people by the voices and the shoes. So when I took off my costumes, I would be like, speak, look at shoes. Oh, I know you, okay. So that one was quite fun because it was my first like 3D printed project, I guess, because I designed the helmet and printed it. And then it was the most complicated electronics design, because she has like a flowery petals that are lit up. And I also used LED fabric, which was fun. So basically people were calling me a Christmas tree, because even if the lights were off, I would be just bright and shining everywhere, which was cool. I really like either like alien looking characters or elves, but I'm thinking maybe if I have time, I would redo my Ashara from 10 years ago now, just to do it properly this time. Yeah, but other than that, I really like every cosplay I've done. Like, it's very hard to choose. I only choose by like, I see what type of event it is and what will be the best thing to take there, and I just go for it. But like another kind of big sentiment to me is my very first commission that was by my patron. It was a character from the book. He just gave me description from the book, some reference photos more or less inspired by that description, and I would go to fabric shop, show him all the fabrics, and let him choose. make the decisions. Sometimes I don't even think I really had to explain to him if something was better. I think he would go for things I would go for anyway, which was quite smooth. But this character is only recognized in that community. And I think it's very important to me because, again, it was my first commission and my last cosplay I've done in Poland before moving to the UK. So it holds special place. And even if I don't really get to wear it for the events because I like to go all out, heavy, blind, deaf kind of person, it's still there here in the house in my wardrobe. And if I feel like I want to wear it for like an easier day at the con or like a house party with costumes, this is perfect because it's effective enough. But not like restraining me from a house party. So it's a very good one.
Well, that makes me wonder, because with regards to practicality, right, I always wonder, and I always ask this about where do you store cosplays and how do you keep them safe? But how do you transport them is my big question. Because when you've got the cosplays that are the builds and they're foam and they're LEDs and they're printed and all kinds of stuff, obviously you're probably not going to you're not going to travel to one of these places wearing your full set of armor necessarily. So how do you get them there? Because I'm always wondering, like, I just imagine flight cases upon flight cases filled with foam and electronics.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yes. So for the Berlin, I needed 2 20-kilo suitcases to fit my Spectre in, and she was still without a weapon. With a weapon, I probably would need to have a box, which is something I haven't like figured out how to like transport something non-suitcasey in a plane. So that's why I didn't go with a weapon, apart from, time constraints again, because stupid sewing machine. This is something that worries me the most, because with Spectre, I had to divide certain pieces in half, which work, but ideally they shouldn't be divided. They still fit and everything, but there is always the risk something will break on the flight, and ideally on your way back, not the way in, because you don't have the means to repair it anymore. Even though people in Berlin event, they did cater for us a lot. We did have like hot glue guns, like backup things. Apart from food and refreshments, we did have some kind of space to potentially repair our stuff. But if you start working with more complicated things like 3D printing, hot glue can help, but not necessarily. So you need at that point make sure it won't break, or if it does, you need. I'm not sure it's actually even legal to bring those chemicals through in a suitcase. I would need to check. I didn't, but. I did like not hot glue, super glue can still save you, but I wouldn't say it's, a permanent repair. It's just potentially keep it in place for the time being. Ideally, it's better to go locally with big costumes, because you just throw it into a car. If you have a car, because I don't, you throw it in and you just transport it. Some people I know, they hire vans with the biggest builds, and I think I might be going that route slightly. I'm not sure what my assistant will think about it, but she's not aware of that potential plan yet. We'll see.
Then she'll know.
Yeah.
I was thinking that one of the costumes that, again, one of the ones that stood out to me, and I'm always drawn to these like huge builds because I don't cosplay, so I don't even sew a stitch, so I wouldn't know how to start the rest of it. But it was your battle sister, Saint Celestine. That is something where I could just imagine that behind the wheel of a van in huge power armor with all the ribbons and banners. Like, that is something where I'm intrigued to know how long a build like that would take, because that's a substantial outfit.
Yeah, so it's hard to estimate how much it is done. I was printing it, because it's a 3D printed cosplay, since January last year till May, because I was supposed to wear it in May for Swansea Comic Con. I was part of the organizing team. And it was more like my own project idea to wear it at the event, so there was no obligation really to bring it in, but I thought, that would be cool, because I know the community in Swansea, people like Warhammer, so I thought they'll be cool. So I was more relaxed with that one. So what I've managed to print were shoulders, front and back of the chest armor, and then something for the hips. But that was enough, for Easy Cosplay to still be cosplay competition organizer. I needed to be mobile. So that was good. But that was still 5 months of printing day to day. And I still have to print like leg armor, weapon, and make the wings. So it's not even halfway there. It's presentable enough, but not fully finished. And it all depends on the printer because, it can also break. You lose filament, you need to wait for ship and all that stuff. You need to plan it a lot. Sometimes your measurements might be off and you need to reprint something, which is the case because I was... initially, I scanned my body with a phone camera, not very old, but comparing to nowadays, they were not good enough. So the scans were not as good in-ish, so that you could kind of see it will potentially fit, but not good enough to make sure it will fit. So I had to sometimes print like smaller pieces of like wrist braces or like leg armor just to make sure it fits. And even if it did fit, the whole print might not. So now I have my full body scan, so it's easier. So I hope that will be faster at this point. But currently, until end of March, I am printing the night for the Into the Breach esports company. So Celestine is taking a break, but I'm lucky enough to have a friend who has his own metal workshop. So we did skeleton for the wings. And it was fun when he just casually was like, oh yeah, let's throw it into a furnace. I was like, what? Yeah, I have a furnace. What? Yeah, let's just... Okay, I mean, I will just stay at the other side of this garage, but go for it. Have fun. And yeah, shout out to her because we did fail a couple of times. And I think I will still see him again because we installed the wings upside down. So, doesn't matter. It's always fun with friends.
Yeah.
And
learning experience for everyone. It's fun.
It's quite funny because my husband and his partner would sit outside in the garden and get drunk, whereas we would we wouldn't drink, but still our measurements would be off because we would work together and make each other laugh and confused. That, I had to come back a couple of times to bring stuff in from my house because we did wrong measurements while the other two were getting pissed. So it was great fun. And I'm kind of looking forward to telling him, hey, do you want me to visit again? But yeah, this is the project I want to finish, but take my time. Ideally start working on it second half of this year, which is something again that keeps me excited because I am excited to finish this night cosplay because I made it. It's cool, it's being printed, I see it growing and it's all amazing. But then I'm like, okay, but when I finish, I'm not going to be bored and confused. I still have other cool stuff to make. So it's for me, it helps and motivates me knowing that there are some costumes that are still waiting to be finished. And if there is no official deadline because it's my own project, it's not stressful because, if you have to, you'll just, I can run my printer and do other stuff for other commission while Celestine prints. So it's quite cool option with this one because I don't need to worry too much. Ideally, I would, have a factory of all printers around me, but I am building to that.
Yeah, I have a sorely underused PLA filament printer that I'm looking at right now, but I could never... Is it a resin printer that you're using for it?
No, PLA.
Oh, is it? Okay, wow. I just, in my head, I was imagining vats of chemicals printing out resin stuff. But yeah, the things that you can print stuff. Like I print small things, little things, never armor. Maybe one day.
No, go for it. There are free available ones. That's how I was learning 3D modeling. I was getting free available ones, modifying them, learning how to modify them to put LEDs in or whatever, and then just started printing. Like with Spectre, actually, I went all in 3D modeling, not knowing anything about it. I was just doing it. It was, again, 2020, I think, COVID, being bored. Sure. My husband playing some games, and I was like, you know what, I will just click around and build something because I have no idea how to do it in foam. Because that's the thing. I don't know if you experienced this, Saskia, but I had like this mind, like walls in my head that until I unlocked certain level of depth knowledge, I didn't know how to do it. So, for example, initially with Ashara sewing, I had to ask my dad how to do things because I didn't have experience. So my mind couldn't even imagine how to sew things together, where to flip it, where to measure it, all that stuff. And that was the same with Spectre's helmet, because her helmet is very bendy and weird shaped. I've seen people just 3D modeling to put it in Papakura to flatten it out and then build it in foam. And that was the initial plan, that I just build it that way so that I can see it flat out and then I can build it actually how it should be, so it's 3D nicely shaped. But in the meantime, I got a printer, so I thought, might as well at this point print it, because then I can work on some other pieces while it prints. And I must say, 3D modeling became a huge part of my work because it speeds things up, makes things easier. The details are better than handcrafted anyway. So, there is extra stress sometimes when the printer doesn't listen to you, and that's annoying. But once you kind of get the flow of the machine, it's good.
Maybe that's the secret. We've spoken about the jacket, which I looked at longingly, which was the first part of a potential cosplay, which hasn't happened. And I'm wondering, maybe do I adapt it now and add some pauldrons or something, print them on?
Get your hand to work in.
Enhance it to this costume that
wow.
But today.
Yeah, I would go for it.
Why not?
The best thing to me to start cosplaying is either make something simple so you learn as you go, or start reusing things available, especially now. You have a printer, you can print stuff. It's already easier. There are lots of resources, free available designs. Sometimes you might find something better that is paid for. You just pay the creator the money, appreciate the work, and go for it. I mean, I love how accessible it is now, because it is definitely much more fun. There are many more options than they were before. Even with my dad, he is electrician by profession. So I don't know much about electronics from technical point of view. He studied it, I didn't. So all I know is I learned from him, or YouTube or whatever. So sometimes I would come to him and say, look, does this circuit make sense? Will I burn? Will I fry myself? What's going to happen? And he would be like, oh, no, this is going to be fine. But this is interesting what you found, because a couple of years ago, these things wouldn't be available for sale. And I can see now that the electronics are becoming more and more broad for use for people who don't know anything about it. As long as numbers match, 5 volts and whatever matches, it's perfect. And he was surprised that I managed to find something that he himself would have to solder from scratch for it to work. And now it's just available for anyone. So lots of things are becoming more and more accessible for people who don't know anything about it. Obviously, there are some dangers with that. There are. So always ask whoever knows more about it.
We're not advising everyone to go out and immediately start wiring things up. No.
No, you don't want to explode. No. But it's nice to see that things are just more available for everyone.
So you've kind of mentioned a few things there, so I probably already know the answer to this question, but it's another thing we ask a lot. So how did you obviously now you do this as a job, you're really quite experienced in a lot of these skills. Where did you learn them in the first place? Was a lot did you learn a lot from YouTube? Was it books? Was it people that you knew? And I know that it sounds like your dad has taught you some of your sewing and things like that. How did you get into learning the skills?
I think I like trial and error. And it's a bit of a issue for me, I think, because I could do something much faster if I just Googled it. But for some reason, discovering my own ways is also fun. For example, I didn't even think of it. I saw a video somewhere on YouTube ages ago how to make a katana, and someone said, reinforce it with a wire or rod, whatever. I thought, oh, that's cool. But again, COVID, I can't find these things locally. So what do? Let's look around the house. And previous owner has left a broken fishing rod, and I thought, yes. So fishing rod became a stabilizing point. But nowadays, I think I don't necessarily, I would research, but it's not conscious that much, depending on the character again. If it's something that I already have skills in, I might just quickly check. If it's something I don't know well enough, I would go into it. Like currently it's how to make wings as lightweight as possible because I have problems with my spine, so I am trying to be mindful of that. But the good thing about social media is you follow a few creatives, even like 2 or 3, and they post a lot how they do things. And even without thinking, you still learn just scrolling through. And that's what happened with my art as well, because even though I took a break from drawing things and practicing perspective, shading, anatomy, I would still see my other friends progressing. And through observing their progress, my art, even if I took a break, would get better. So I think now, unless there's a specific issue I need to deal with, I just see other people make stuff. And I am sure I would probably have seen some videos, but I can't specify which was the one that actually has taught me whatever something I found. But also... my husband, he is the one. Well, he is actually researcher. It's his career. He's a lecturer. He loves researching. So sometimes I would go to sleep, and he would be like, "You know what? I can't sleep. I would just do some, I don't know, research, whatever." And he would come up with me some crazy ideas, and he'd be like, "Oh my god, yes, you can do this. You can do that." Like that's how we found out about LED fabrics. He was like, "Oh my god, yes, get the fabrics. This is so cool." And I thought, you know what? Yes, let's do this. Then he would just come up with some crazy things. Like he is creative himself, but he doesn't make cosplays, although he did help me with Spectre to make her on time, bless him. So it is, I don't know, I have lots of friends who would also come up with me with random videos, be like, "Oh, have you seen that? This is cool. Try this, try that." So I don't feel like I need to look for things anymore because I just have so many people excited.
Yeah.
But yes, if I want something very specific, I will look for that. And it's amazing how many of us are there showing off the things they have done and how they have done it. And certain ideas, I can't come up with an example now, but there are some ideas that are so simple that you wouldn't think of. And this is something I like talking to people who not necessarily have experience with cosplay, because I have the tools, I have machine, I have skills, I have all these proper way of doing things. But then people are like, "Oh, but why don't you, I don't know, use, I don't know, hot glue for this?" For example, I did hot glue because I didn't have time to resin cast the, how they are called now, like gems for the armor. Someone said, "Okay, just hot glue this, like it will also get the shape." I was like, yes, not the correct way, but yes. So I did that, and it was enough for the con. So it is always fun because there will be people who will not necessarily know how things work, but they will have some knowledge in their own experience, and they will try to help you with these ideas. And I think this is amazing. This is the greatest fun I have, sharing experience with people. And that's why I love judging, for example, because people will come up with such crazy ideas to make things. Like one of my favorite ones is someone made a pauldron out of broken flower vase. There you go, shape, done. Yeah. So I just like those simple ideas that we don't necessarily think of because we're like used to like tunnel vision, kind of foam, glue, let's do this. And people are like, "Nah, easier that way." Fair, yeah.
I do like that. I think a lot of what we see on like or loathe social media, right? I got 2 kids. I'm terrified of social media. But I think that when I see people doing cosplay, and I think that people, like you said, sharing their progress, sharing their projects, I don't, and it probably exists because it's the internet, but like I don't really see the negativity. Like I see a lot of support. I see a lot of people really appreciating the work. And people sharing it more often than not are sharing it because it's like, here's this cool thing I'm doing. You might think it's interesting. I don't see, there's not a lot of, at least, from what I've come across, there's not a lot of ego in it. Like, look how great I am. It's much more a case of, look at this process. Isn't this quite cool? This thing that happens when you're making these costumes. And I think that's one of the things in the sort of cosplay community, which again, narrow view of it, but it feels like there's a lot of support for people doing it, getting into it, like trying new things, trying new ways of doing established things. And that's eventually encouraging to see for those that could be quite new into cosplay, the idea of following a few people and seeing how they do stuff and seeing that there's a wider community around there that's willing to chip in and say, this is really cool. Like, what you've done is really great here. Way outnumbering the voices that are saying something to the contrary. So I think that's really great.
Yes, I think this is actually very great, because in UK especially, that's what I've observed. People are far more supportive than when I was starting back in Poland. It was still supportive, but people would be so excited about things. They would start judging you as if you were a professional. So certain people would not show the stuff because they would feel, okay, it's not good enough. There would be a critique, not necessarily to bring you down, but to help you. But sometimes people would start feeling a bit awkward and shy, and they wouldn't want to show. Whereas here, people seem to be more excited. I think it's changed as well, although I don't have that much connection with Polish community anymore. But I think it's changed for the better now there as well. But still, I think UK is slightly more appreciative. I don't know why exactly. But I do enjoy the fact that there are people that will just get excited over thing. You know, even if it's repeated method, people be like, "Oh my God, you did it so well, so clean, so pretty painting, whatever." It's just nice to see this extra encouragement, because sometimes you put so many hours and you start hating it, and then you see someone who is in love with it, and in your mind at first you're like, "Nah, it's just." Nah. But then actually people will be like, I really love it. This is great. How did you make it? And then it brings that love back again after, let's say, unreasonable disappointment initially. I think there is an important point to raise. Like, there will be haters always. There will be people who will dislike it. I did experience a couple of negative comments, like I wasn't slim enough as the character from the game that isn't anatomically correct. So I was like, okay, I'm not, but also that body wouldn't really exist.
Yeah.
There's that. Or, when you compare characters from anime who are quite chest endowed, suddenly you hear that you're too small, and it's like, oh, come on. Like, of course there are silicone molds, but it's not necessarily all about that. It's not a contest where you need to be 100% accurate. It's just for fun. If I competed, maybe I would go for it to be like extra points for it. But it's not needed. I don't think it's needed in cosplays either. So, it's your own preference at that point. But there are some people who will go above and beyond and start comparing, like, oh, this character wouldn't wear this kind of material because she doesn't like, I don't know, lace, for example. And it's like, yeah, but I do. So I added lace to the costume.
I like so shut up.
Yeah. So like I made it. I put the effort, the hours, the money. Like, yeah. It's my decision.
Yeah. That character's not real. I made this costume.
Yeah.
Have you ever had it's been an experience where you've put the time and the effort into a costume and really gone all out on it, and by the end of by the time it gets to actually putting the costume on, you kind of hate it? Have you ever had one of those experiences? Anyone sort of bring you back, like, once you see the reactions to it?
I don't think it was no one has specifically said everyone actually loved that cosplay, but it is my Spectre that I took to Berlin because I love and hate her at the same time. Because there was so much stress around her, I don't think I enjoy her as much. And now I am planning, because there's going to be another Dota event this time in UK. I am planning to update her and improve stuff, make it a weapon. But when I look at her, I initially, I see all the improvements, all the skills I've put in, all the things I've learned. But I also see all the mistakes I've done because I had to compromise, because I had to rush it. I see all the stress that I had to put it on the day because I was already stressed out. And then it's quite funny with me and my assistant, actually, because there's always one of us panicking and the other one is very weirdly calm. So one day, I think the first day I was panicking. She was like, "No, you look great. It's awesome. It's great. Yeah, we'll quickly pin it here and there. It's amazing. It's fine. Don't you worry." And then the next day, I'll just be like, okay, I'm done with this. Like, it worked, so it will work today, whatever. And she will be like, oh my God, I'm going to be late. I'm like, we come out wherever we come out. It's chill. It's so good. So it's always quite funny how one of us needs to, yeah. But with Spectre, it's also funny because my assistant, she's my best friend. She also was my bridesmaid. And she looked at me with the Spectre and she was like, you know what, this costume, like your wedding dress was easier to maintain than this. And I was like, yeah, I know. Like, I think the worst thing about cosplays is figuring out comfort to go to the bathroom. Spectre is awful. No, like, wedding dress, she was again, like, she made me a ball out of my dress. I was fine. With Spectre, we had to like unpin everything, like put everything on top of me, but we can't really because then there are those flowers and it was just whole other thing. And she was like, yeah, I prefer your wedding dress to that. I was like, yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah, you think about costumes being clothes, but it's like, they're not always clothes, or are they? They're also gear and armor and lights and all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I like with Commander Shepard, I need to what do I need? I need to use the bathroom. I need to take off basically like my belt, then front and back, and then the leg armor because it's up so high my legs that I can't sit down. So So basically, I go to the bathroom and I'm like, okay, you wait for half an hour. I'll be back at some point.
Very well scheduled breaks in that costume. Yeah.
Oh God, yes. The good thing is you're so excited about wearing it, you don't feel it until it's very close, and then you need to go. And that's the risk. So you need to be very careful.
You get it all off.
Yeah, the panic is real.
Timing yourself before the convention. How long can I get out of this? All right, go.
Or timing drinks, because if you don't drink for a while, you can survive a couple of hours. But then when you're very thirsty, okay, within an hour I will have to be out of this. So let's be close.
The big question for me is always like, if someone's brand new into it, right? Like, you've been doing it for a while now, you're doing it in a professional capacity as well as a hobby and a love. But if someone was thinking, oh, I want to give it a try, but I don't know, like, what's your key piece of advice for someone to get into it and to embrace the hobby?
Go simple yet challenging enough. So again, like I've done with Ashara, she is quite simple because it's just like a bra and a skirt, a little bit of accessories. But it was still a challenge because I didn't know how to work with foam or sewing, how to choose a proper material. So don't necessarily go crazy, even though you love a character, because my dream character was Sylvanas and I still haven't done Sylvanas. But I thought, let's go simple because I don't want to get discouraged. And at the time also, I didn't know anyone who would know enough to teach me. Like, yes, my dad knew about sewing, but even for him, there were certain moments where he was like, oh, I'm not actually sure how to do that. So we had to figure it out together. So ideally, to me, is always working with other people. So again, it was my dad or friends who could potentially give ideas, but choosing a simple design or a design that you can use your clothes but add to it or alter them, it's safer option. Maybe some might think, oh, it's a bit boring. Yes, but think of it, you're exploring it. You're exploring whether you want to invest into it. Any hobby in the end is expensive. So it's better to know whether you're going to like it with least amount of spending the money as possible and cluttering your house. You don't want to buy a 3D printer. You don't want to buy Dremel, all that stuff, just to realize, actually, I don't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. So I think the simple, the better, but still make it as enjoyable as you can. So again, I loved elves, so I chose an elf, and I thought, okay, I'll be an elf. Not the one I necessarily want to be it, but I will be an elf. I will learn how to do things, and it's gonna be fun. And that's what it was. Because even though my very first Ashara outing wasn't finished cosplay because I was wearing just a dress rather than proper outfit she has, I still had lots of fun, and people still wanted to take photos with me because I looked, like an elf, random elf, not a specific one, but it was still fun enough. And to me, it was like, okay, if they like something that is unfinished, what if it's finished? And it just added points to keeping on going. But of course, there are people who experience burnout. I see like since COVID, I could see people losing that passion, having to take a break. I was there a bit because again, these were hard times. People didn't know what's going on, and I can that can take a toll on you. So I can understand people are waiting for something that will really get them excited, and that's also okay. It's basically, it's your free time, it's your hobby, just enjoy it. Same with, let's say, sports. If you don't like certain type of sport, you don't do it. So why would you force yourself with cosplay you won't enjoy as well? So it's a very long answer, but it's good to look into it every angle possible before you go into it. Because in the end, you go to it because you have some kind of passion, either for the character or just the process of baking, and you don't necessarily want to lose it. So my advice would be go simple, but a bit challenging.
Challenge yourself. Yeah, looking at that jacket.
Yeah, I'm telling you, just add some 3D printed stuff.
Jacket, pauldrons, lightsaber, done.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
You can do this.
I'll add it to my list.
Like how many wigs you can borrow. We've got.
There you go.
I would love a good wig. I don't have I don't have any hair, so I'd love a good wig. Any wigs, Karoinna?
Oh, I have. I don't have as many as people I think would expect, because I don't like dealing with hair overall. So that's why I go for blind masked characters, because I just hide myself. It's easy. No makeup, no hair. Perfect. And if you are tired, it won't be visible on your face. So it's win-win. But I do have wigs, and I do enjoy styling them. I think what I don't like is the panic whether the styling will survive the event, and then making sure it's again nice after the event or the next day of the event. That I don't like more than anything. For Commander Shepard, I had to demolish a wig to make it work, and there was hair everywhere. My husband was just looking at that space. He was like, "What did you do?" I was like, "Well, she needed styling. She needed some job done." And he was like, "Did you ruin it?" And I was like, "Did you ruin it?" No, I didn't. I don't know. Don't ask me. Leave.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I think that we've spoken to a lot of people who have been into this as a hobby. Not many who have transitioned that into an actual a career as well, which is quite exciting to see. And I think that the fact that there is a demand for that and people want to get into that, and trusting people to build for them and to make something, not being put on. I often think people will be put off because they can't do the things. And the idea of not being able to sew or build with foam or craft or print, like that would just stop someone in their tracks from ever even getting into cosplay. But the idea that they could see someone's work and go, "I like that work. I wonder if they can make a piece for me." We spoke to a couple episodes ago. We spoke to the Scandalorian, and he was talking about getting a Predator costume, and it was that idea of you can't. I mean, where do you start to make a Predator costume? It's mad. But like, he got that costume, and I've seen him in it since, and it's like such a cool thing to be able to say, "I want to be that character. Can you make that thing for me? Can you get that?" Because already I'm thinking, like, if I get a set for that jacket, I can have this bit there. I can't make that, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Very, very cool.
Yeah, I really like the fact that people trust us. I think the scariest thing maybe with any creative industry is that people not necessarily know how much work goes into it and how much it should cost. So it's a bit how to say, not discouraging, but it does make you a little bit disappointed when people are like, "Oh, I can't really afford that," which is fair enough. Again, it's something you don't really need in life. It's something for fun. But when you do it for a living, this is something you need to be aware of, that there will be lots of people who will want you to do something, and most likely won't agree on the pricing. But again, you need to be careful not to work for free, because you need to make a living at this point. It's not a side hustle. But usually people come back to me afterwards. They either we do like installments, or they come back to me afterwards and like, "Okay, I'm ready to do it now." So that's nice, because people appreciate it. And I am always of the belief of supporting creatives. For example, my friend, he started doing photography around the time I started cosplaying, so we would practice stuff together. And he for my wedding, he said that he will take a camera anyway. And I thought, why won't I hire you? Like, you will have a gig, you'll get the money, and you said you wanted to do wedding photography, so win-win for both of us, really. And yeah, I paid him, and I got amazing photos, and now he gets more clients thanks to that, because he had already some kind of portfolio with him. Then I have a couple of friends who are tattoo artists, and again, I thought, if I am going to get a tattoo, I will go to you because you're my friend. Why not to support you? So I think with cosplay, like, there are certain moments where I can feel, oh, deadline is too much, or someone has a better equipment. Like, I don't have embroidery machine, for example, so I have certain friends who do. So I'm thinking, okay, if I ever go for it, I can hire that person, get them the job, they have fun, they get the money, I get ease of mind because they experience with it, and it's win-win. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited to see creatives supporting creatives, because I think there is slightly more appreciation, because we just know how much love needs to go and skill into it. But this being said, like, my family, not artsy at all. But since I started studying art and making art and cosplay, they became more aware of how difficult it is, how expensive it is. And now, even though they don't know anything about the character, not much about the techniques, they're like, oh, this is so cool, how did you do that? And then I tell them, and they may not necessarily understand every random word, technical word, but they are still happy to see it. And I think this change, the shift in the minds, where at first they were worried about my future and now being excited for it, is also encouraging.
Yeah. That's the thing. They don't have to understand it. They just have to support it. So. Yeah.
And the best thing for me as a, like an adult having a business as a cosplay, is seeing parents who see the kids are interested in cosplay, but they don't know anything about it, and asking other cosplayers, even parents as well, how they would help the children. And then there are people coming with random, huge amount of resources from random spaces. And it's so great because, again, we have so many people showing how to do things. We have ready-made 3D prints where people don't need to have a printer even. They can just order a shop to print it for them, or a friend, or whoever. We have so much to use now that it's great to see parents wanting to support the children and going to cons with them, sometimes even dress up with them. I think it's very very lovely on their side, and I'm really glad to see that more and more people are seeing it as a creative output that is not a waste of time, because cosplay still teaches a lot of things, a lot of skills that can be used in the future. Repairing a house, or when we were doing renovations in our house, my husband was just stealing my tools. So, these things are still with you. It's just different application in the end.
Yeah.
Parents raise geek children. That's the key. There are skills. There's life skills in there. Do it. Well, I want to say a huge thank you for being on the show. Thank you for your insight, and thank you for your Commander Shepard cosplay, because that made my Wales Comic-Con. Sorry it was so difficult to get out to use the bathroom, but it was fantastic to see it in real life. So huge thank you to Karoinna. Great to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for inviting me and having me.
And everyone out there, thank you for watching. That's been another episode of Cosplay Confessional, and we will see you all next time. Cosplay Confessional is part of the Nod Network and produced by Studio 30,000.